Hello and welcome back to Starcraft 1 Part 30. In this episode, we continue the hunt for Tassadar, or rather, we attempt to continue to bring Tassadar down to that there beacon in the bottom right-hand corner. So, since we've already done a majority of the base building, I should go over what I really think about Starcraft 1 as a whole. Are you ready, Cloud? Because this is going to be controversial. Very controversial.
I mean, we could be extremely meta about controversy, but go on.
This is actually a little bit of stuff that we've already seen. Huh. Oh well.
What?
Anyway, this is me having fucked up the editing. It's okay. Anyway. I fucked up
previously on Rocket Rabbit.
Yes, previously on Rocket Rabbit. So, I enjoy StarCraft 1, but it is in no way, shape, or form the best RTS pre-2000. It's not even close. It has got a lot of major issues plaguing it that it flat out cannot recover from. One of the bigger issues is the flat out imbalance of the factions. Like, Protoss are objectively the worst faction. They're the coolest faction, most certainly, but they are just straight up the worst faction, and they have no way of actually being much better than what they currently are. And when I compare StarCraft 1 to other 2000s RTS games, I always end up comparing it to a particularly underground RTS game called Total Annihilation. Total Annihilation's faction balance is significantly better because every single one of the units in Total Annihilation actually has not only a direct counter but also a direct upgrade on the opposing faction. And this makes the unit, and it also has a significantly larger unit diversity in comparison to StarCraft. Whereas in StarCraft, each faction gets effectively 3 combat units and like 2 support units. Total Annihilation allows both of the factions, since there's only 2, to have various tiers of offensive and support units available for production at different points in the game. Total Annihilation is a significantly better game than StarCraft 1. It just is. And I always find it really odd when people think that StarCraft 1 or Brood War is the best RTS game of the pre-2000s and early 2000s. Because it's just not true.
On the subject of game balance, like, which part is not balanced in StarCraft? The single-player campaign or the multiplayer?
Multiplayer mostly. The Zerg is objectively the best faction in StarCraft 1. And it's not for the reason that a Zergling swarm always kills you in multiplayer, although that's annoying as shit to deal with. No, it's actually because the Zerg actually have the single best unit in the game. That although the Terran and Protoss both have direct counters for, they get that direct counter significantly later than Zerg can actually start having mass productions of them. Plus, Zerg also have the benefit, although it's supposedly a detriment, it's actually a benefit of having all of their units come out of a single building, just needing the attack in order to actually produce those units. Whereas both Terran and Protoss have to build individual unit production centers in order to attempt to build their other units. This is where Cloud is supposed to, come in and share what his opinions are on the matter.
I mean, honestly, the only thing I can think of is just, what multiplayer game has not come down to balance issues. Honestly, every game has a dominant strategy. The multiplayer community usually figures it out, and they exploit it en masse because it works. Like, what game doesn't do that?
Well, for the most part, both Halo Wars and Total Annihilation managed to avoid that. at least from what I have played. I don't recall anything in Halo Wars being so significantly powerful over another strategy that just invalidated other strategiars.
Well, I say,
However,
yeah.
I never actually got into the competitive scene for Halo Wars. I also didn't actually finish the Halo Wars 1 campaign. I mean,
Yeah, and I'm sure
I got like 2/3 the way through, but
just
I
follow
didn't have
the
time.
wisdom. Just follow the wisdom of the community, because the community is always right.
well, the community is usually right. Thing is, when it comes to StarCraft 1, although the community is usually right on
Here we go.
on you know the best builds and such, they're not right when it comes to their fandom. StarCraft 1 is objectively not the best RTS of this era. It just flat out loses to both. It flat out loses to Total Annihilation, and I would be playing the campaign for Total Annihilation if I was skilled enough at the game in general to actually be able to clear the campaign. But I'm not. Total Annihilation is significantly more complicated, and it's significantly more rewarding when you understand its complexities to the point where you're actually, decent at the game.
Now,
We're getting ate apart by queens, and it's not fun.
Was this a period when game developers like Blizzard could just patch their multiplayer scene as they saw fit?
At this point, mostly. I mean, this was 99. At this point, anyone that was playing StarCraft was playing it online with online multiplayer. So yeah, they would have certainly had the ability to patch out imbalances, and they elected to not do it. I mean, there were a couple of patches for StarCraft 1, but a majority of the patches that came out weren't actual balance fixes. And even when it came to Brood War, it wasn't balance patches that they were doing. It was mostly a small quality of life updates. And for the record, those quality of life updates are very important. I don't remember what they are, but they are indeed very important.
Or maybe that's why they didn't. Because let me tell you something about game developers that control and nerf game balance as they see fit. My buddy recently quit playing Call of Duty Black Ops 4. Why? They nerfed his favorite gun. They said, well, everybody's using this gun. It's been responsible for most of the deaths, especially dominant kill streaks that get the bonuses that win the game, so we're going to make this particular gun less powerful. Boom. That's game balance. However, they fucking turned off their fan base. So you have to, you gotta, toe a very careful line when you decide who you're going to please and who you're going to piss off with these decisions.
And for Blizzard's case in this episode, they just chose not to do that when it was very clearly needed.
No, they needed people to play the game. That's why StarCraft 2 came out, baby, because they got the money for it.
I forgot that we needed to have Templar archives in order to get 2.2 developed. So I don't have Templar archives yet.
Previously on Rocket Rabbit.
The good news is that we are actually, up to our plasma shield too. So that's nice.
And then eventually we are going to get Lao out of China and bring him to court. Harvey Dent's court.
Well, actually, Tassadar is going to walk into court on his own because that's a story spoiler.
You can't protect me. You can't even protect yourselves.
I will go so far as to say that I actually, when it comes to competitive multiplayer, I actually even prefer playing Age of Empires 2. Although I am significantly better at Age of Empires 2 than I am at StarCraft 1.
I mean, StarCraft 1 is just a delightful milestone in the history of real-time strategy games. It's not perfect. It's just, this is how things were back in the day. This game came out 20 years ago.
And yet so many people consider this to be the perfect RTS game, and I have huge issues with that. It just flat out is not that. And having it held up as such annoys me a great deal. I shouldn't be so annoyed by it. and it's a pretty big issue for me to be annoyed by it. But I am annoyed by it.
Good. Good. Let the hate flow through your veins.
Yeah, what he said. So, what is your favorite? What is your favorite RTS of this era, Mr. Cloud?
Pikmin.
Pikmin's actually a couple years after this era, but all right.
But it's 1998 to 2001. I think it counts.
Is Pikmin 1 2001?
Yeah, it was a GameCube launch title.
Huh.
Actually, no, wait, no, sorry.
Pikmin.
Pikmin 1 was not a GameCube launch title. It actually came out, like, right after the GameCube came out. Luigi's Mansion was a launch title.
I could have swore that Pikmin 1 was 2002. I mean, that would still be in this era, but...
It's, like, right at the end, yeah. But, yeah, Pikmin 1 is, although now you got me thinking, what other real-time strategy games have I played in the past that I actually enjoyed? I think there might have been one, but you know that's the one that comes prominently to mind. I mean, you're looking at an over-the-top screen. You have, I mean, basically Olimar is your green arrow, and he's growing Pikmin out of the Zerg spawn pools. They're hideous.
I mean, I totally agree that Pikmin is a real-time strategy game. It is, but I don't consider it to be a real-time strategy game in the same vein that Starcraft and Age of Empires are.
Well, I mean, you got resources. You have to gather stuff in order to get stuff.
But you see, Pikmin 1 specifically, your opponent is the timer, as opposed to an actual opposing force.
I mean, I can imagine that, like, I think Pikmin 2 had that. It had, like, a versus mode where the object of the game was to collect more stuff than your opponent. I could also be entirely mistaken. Yeah.
I know that Pikmin 2 definitely had a multiplayer mode, but I don't think that was one of the gameplay modes for it.
Yeah. God, now I am dead curious because I'm either making up memories or I genuinely remember there being like, okay, this is your cave and this is your cave. You each have your own cave to get stuff, so you can't get each other's stuff. You just have to solve the cave better than your opponent. Good luck.
No, where's my Archon? There's my Archon. Oh, my Archon is stuck behind probes that are mining.
Like genies trapped in the lamp. This is Jimbo.
This is Jimmy.
He said it. He said Jimmy.
Yep, this is Jimmy. Almost there, guys. Just gotta finish off these Hydralisks and get Tassadar and Raynor to the spot.
You know what the very worst RTS game I've ever played was?
Nope.
Yu-Gi-Oh! Falsebound Kingdom on the GameCube.
That is not an RTS game, and you will not besmirch the genre by claiming that it is.
It's kind of it's like an RTS that constantly takes a pause break.
But here's the thing. It isn't an RTS game because the gameplay style is not determined by what you do during the RTS elements of that game. It has RTS elements, yes, but the victory conditions are all about the RPG as opposed to the RTS elements.
Well, then how would you classify it?
I classify Falsebound Kingdom as a strategy RPG. In a similar vein that we're ending this mission now. But in the similar vein that I would classify Fire Emblem as a tactics RPG.
You have my thanks, Executor. Now let us find Zeratul and speed our way home.
Yeah, that takes another 2 missions. And in the next part,
Ram,
we'll go
Gerdat.
through the first half of Tassadar's